Welcome to Oyate Today. Oyate in Lakota means people. Brought to you by Native Sun News Today. Hi, welcome to Oyate Today. I am your host, Richie Richards. Oyate Today is produced by Tim and Jackie Gallego. Tim is an enrolled member of the Oglala Sioux tribe. Our guest tonight is Mr. Phil Two Eagle and Mr. Bill Means. Both have been working on the 150th commemoration of the signing of the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868. Thank you for being here, gentlemen. I really appreciate the work you're doing for our communities and in these efforts for the 150th commemoration coming up here in April then. And so, Mr. Means, if you could tell us a little bit about the historical period and the events leading up to the treaty and the actual kind of formation of the camp there at the Fort Laramie treaty signing area.
Well, of course, this is not the first treaty. We signed many treaties with the United States government and various bands of the, not only Oglala, but other Sioux bands within the Sioux Nation. And we're known as Sioux in the legal books, but our original name for ourselves is Lakota. And so through the years, we had various treaties, including the 1851 and the 1868 treaties are both the most notable because it involved the most land. But leading up, of course, to the 1868 treaty, we had the Red Cloud War, as it's known in the history books, in which Red Cloud led various battles against the United States cavalry because they had violated the treaty, which said not to create any buildings or any kind of forts along the Bozeman Trail that were supposed to keep the people moving, not stop here and there and start taking more land. And so as those provisions were violated, Red Cloud went to war with other bands. And so this was a culmination of trying to end that war. The United States came to the Sioux and said, we want peace. And we said, we also want peace. And so they began to prepare many months before April, throughout the winter of 1867. They started preparing and asking people to come to Fort Laramie. So many thousands actually came to Fort Laramie to begin the process of checking out what was going on with the government. What were the parameters? Just like the meeting we're working on now is trying to decide how we're going to construct the agenda, who's going to represent who's legitimate representatives of their people are. And so this set the stage. And so it took many months to set everything up. And April was the time of the signing of the treaty. Some of the bands didn't participate, in particular Crazy Horse, who was one of the largest bands because he didn't believe that the treaty was going to help our people. It was going to change us too much. It was going to make us be assimilated, acculturated, and he believed that we should remain Lakota. So he didn't come, but many other bands did. And so they had a good representation of our people at Fort Laramie when this thing started, just like we hope to have here at the commemoration.
Sure. Now, Mr. Two Eagle, the commemoration is taking place here in April, actually on the site at Fort Laramie there in Wyoming. Can you give us some dates and times and some of the events that are scheduled for that particular event? And we'll go into more details, but I just want to kind of set the stage for what's taking place here in April.
The opening day is April 28th, and then April 29th is the actual treaty signing day, where the first day the National Park Service has their agenda. They're going to be bringing in some dignitaries from hopefully Washington, D.C. and higher ups in the federal government to talk about the treaty, the commemoration, and the following days will be up to the tribes to put up their presentations and basically tell our story. Each tribe will be present to tell their history, and a lot of presentations will be going up. For the Rosebud, we are setting up some teepees, and inside those teepees we'll be doing some presentations on our version, our Sichangu history, talking about our treaty rights, and some cultural presentations. So the whole the other 2 days, the 30th and the 1st, are also have some different topics on those days. So we're hoping to bring all of our Oyate Shakoni tribes to Fort Laramie during that time, and to have them share their stories.
And so what are some of the, there's various opinions of how the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty affected us, not only as individuals, as tribal members, but also as a group, as a tribe, as a nation. What are some of those positive and negatives of this particular treaty for, say, the Rosebud Sioux tribe?
Well, we know that since the signing of the treaty, a lot of good things and bad things did happen. Some of the benefits that we received is that we became government. IRA, Indian Organization Act, came, and we became tribal governments that way, that we were federally recognized, and that opened the door for us to receive federal funding for programs and services for our people. Some of those areas include education and health, agriculture, the different things that were part of the 1868 treaty. But people still have some negative feelings about the loss of lands during that time, the loss of the gold in the Black Hills, and the tribes are still wanting their rights back. So this is an opportunity for us to tell our story to the world.
Sure. And Mr. Means, as a member of the Black Hills, is it the Sioux Nation Treaty Council?
Sioux Nation Council.
Sioux Nation Council. As a member of the Sioux Nation Council in the Black Hills area, then what role does your treaty council play in this commemoration? I know that you've been there from day one in these discussions, but what role exactly, if you could share that with our viewers? And also, could you talk a little bit about the lasting effects of this treaty, this 1868 treaty, on our Black Hills area now, and how is that affecting us currently?
Well, many times people have misconception about treaty. Treaties are contracts made between two nations, not organizations, not tribes, but nation. So it's a nation-to-nation relationship. Another thing that we get stereotype images about is, what is the strength of treaties? Well, treaty is in the Constitution of the United States in Article 6. It says, treaty law is the supreme law of the land. Therefore, treaty law supersedes state and federal law because it's part of the Constitution. So one of the stereotypes is many people say, well, that's an old document. So why should we have to pay attention to that? It's outdated. It's ancient. And we say, is the Constitution still relevant? Because if you look at the Constitution, it tells what treaties are all about. So if the treaties are an old document, what is the Constitution? These are made to uphold the law, and we ceded thousands of acres of land so that we could have these services that we have today. And so these are not welfare, or these are not minority services. These are treaty rights guaranteed to us for ceding thousands of acres of land. These are not welfare payments. These are treaty payments. And so people need to understand that. And we have a special legal, with the treaty, we have a special legal and political relationship with the United States that no other minority has in America. We have land, and that's the important part. And the other part of the question was?
As regards to the role that the Black Hills played to our nations and the surrounding tribes in this area, what role and how important is the Black Hills to the Sioux people, to the surrounding tribes as well? And I don't mean Sioux, I just wanted to make that a reference anyway.
Of course, the Black Hills means as much to our people as the Vatican means to the Roman Catholic Church, or what Jerusalem means to Christians, Muslims, and Jews. The Black Hills is our place of creation. We didn't come from somewhere else. We've always been here. And I remember back in '81 when we had Yellow Thunder Camp, they brought in some archaeologists and anthropologists because they said these Black Hills only became sacred in the 1920s when they produced a brochure at the state government in Pierre. And in that brochure, the Indians said these lands were sacred. So we just started making them sacred in 1920.
Yeah.
In reality, the opposite is true. It's always been sacred territory because where we were created as a people. And so when people talk about creation, our story is right here. It's not in some other country. It's not in some other area. The Lakota are from the Black Hills. We come out of Wind Cave is one of the prophecies.
Sure.
So that's the origins of our people is right here, and that's why the Black Hills is so sacred, because that's where we started. That's where we became human beings.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Means, for sharing that. We're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to learn a little bit more about the collaboration and the efforts that have come together in order to make the 150th commemoration possible. So we'll be back after a word from our sponsors.
You can't predict life's ups and downs. You just give it all you've got to stay on top. But it's easier with a partner like Security First Bank. Since 1898, we've been riding with you through the country's biggest ups and downs. And this is where we'll stay. Security First Bank, a relationship you can count on. Member FDIC.
Our school has great students and dedicated teachers, but we need our community volunteers to help us to provide a broader view of the many ways a good education can point to a bright future.
Did someone say volunteer? Our team at Black Hills is here to help. In fact, we sponsor events and projects, and our employees volunteer for organizations throughout the Black Hills, including partnering with schools to help students learn more about life outside the classroom. Extracurricular, extra fun.
Native Sun News has been voted the best weekly newspaper in its class for 2015 by the South Dakota and North Dakota Newspaper Associations. You can find a copy of the Native Sun News at many businesses and vending machines in Rapid City and the surrounding area, and on all 9 reservations. We publish every Wednesday, so advertisers and subscribers can reach our diverse readership by calling 605-721-1266. The Native Sun News covers the other side of the story.
If Youth and Family Services weren't available in this community, there would be a lot of unmet basic needs. Very few organizations do as good a job as Youth and Family Services, getting every ounce of usefulness out of people's time, their dollars that they donate.
Youth and Family Services help so many kids. It's a great value to the community.
Join me, because together we help kids.
Hi, welcome back to Oyate Today. Once again, I'm your host, Richie Richards. Our guests tonight are again Mr. Phil Two Eagle and Mr. Bill Means. Now, before the break, we talked a little bit about the 150th commemoration and some of the events that are going to be happening during this time period. And we'll get into that a little bit more in a second here. But could you talk to me about the collaboration of the different treaty councils, the different organizations, and those key players that came together to make this possible, Mr. Two Eagle?
And part of this planning for the events, we've been meeting for 2 years now, and from each tribe, there's treaty councils that are involved, the THPOs, Tribal Historic Preservation Offices, and tribal members from each reservation. So, and then the National Park Service has been facilitating this process. So they wanted our input, and it's driven by our people. The activities that are going to go on are ideas that came from each reservation, from all of the individuals that have been attending the meetings. And so for the Rosebud, we're going to be having a healing and prayer walk from one of the community where I come from. It's called Upper Community. In Lakota, they call it Wososo Wakpa Oinkpa. And there is the descendants of Chief Little Thunder. And then, ironically, a gentleman by the name of Paul Soderman, he is the descendant of General Harney. he is working with that family to coordinate the healing and prayer walk as a way to heal from all the generational trauma that occurred from the Indian Wars. So we also have a horseback ride along with that, and possibly a run. They're going to be running from Rosebud to Fort Laramie.
Wow, so that's going to be quite the event there in itself. I mean, each of these individual things is quite the effort then. And so could you tell me some of the other treaty councils that you're working with, some of the other key players that's involved in this?
Well, each, like I said, each reservation, each tribe is sending, they send representatives to the meetings. And it just doesn't include our Oyate, Shakoi, the Lakota tribes. We also have the other tribes from the Oyate, Shakoi coming, System, Wahpeton, Santee, different, possibly our relatives in Minnesota who are interested. And we have even of our Sitting descendants in Canada will be coming to attend the event.
This is a large event, and this is a very special occasion. And Mr. Means, could you, in our last segment, you talked a little bit about the gathering of the tribes and the people during that time period, but you all had also been to Fort Laramie recently in the last couple of years, and you talked about how I guess there's still some historical buildings from that time period there. So could you talk about the landscape there, some of the layout of the land there, and how all of that is going to play into this kind of sacred moment?
Yeah, it's become a special place in that the Park Service has recognized it as a very historical, significant site. And so they tried to reconstruct, in some cases preserve the buildings that existed there, barracks and other things, but it's basically flat with rolling hills. There's a dry creek bed there, and it's like you're out in the middle of nowhere. And because of the lack of buildings, and there was never really a city built around there, or a town even. There's a town several miles away. But when we went there before, it was for a treaty meeting of people getting together without the federal government, just as a commemoration of our own. And it was a very special and significant place because we had some of the elders then who were still alive, who fathers and grandfathers had been there in 1868. And so they told some very realistic oral history. And you could actually feel that you were not alone there, that you could feel the presence, seemed like, of ancient ones that came back to visit that historical place, because this is the place that began the process of Indians and non-Indians coming together in a peaceful way to decide the future. And so our people feel that is actually a sacred place. But on the other hand, we feel that it was also the beginning of assimilation, acculturation, as Crazy Horse said. So it's two worlds there. And so it gets kind of heavy when you start thinking of how much we've progressed, but also how much we lost in terms of our culture, in terms of our history, our land, and resources. So you get dual feelings there about history, about the present day, about the ancestors that were there, including, like he says, General Kearney, General, can't remember the generals' names, all of them, but there was quite a military contingent there, as well as our great leaders that were there, many chiefs from many tribes that came there. They said it was numbers of 2,000-3,000. It's hard to put a definite number on it, but we know that it was 1,000, over 2,000, maybe as much as 3,000 Indian people came there because, for one thing, it was a fort, and so they had access to food there, and it was a tough winter. Where before we were relegated to the reservations, that period was coming, and we wanted to know, what is all that about? Because the reservations were formed in 1889 in that area. And this was 1868. So we're talking about, maybe 20 years.
Of that survival on the reservations.
Yeah. So it was a very difficult time, but on the other hand, historic time, and you can feel it when you're there.
It almost seems like this commemoration then would be kind of a way to highlight the importance of survival, but also an important time period to talk about the revival of language, to talk about the survival of other aspects of our cultures on not only on the reservations but for our urban Indian communities as well, and the importance of keeping that network together with those relationship with our past ways and our traditional ways. So we're going to take a break, gentlemen. When we get back, we'll learn a little bit more about this project and a little bit more about those efforts. So we'll be back after a word from our sponsors.
Don't let me show evil, though it might be all I take. Show me love, show me love, show me love. Yeah, I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. Better than what I get on. But if you throw me love, I'll feel it some more. Let me show cruelty, the hand of love can make. And don't let me show evil, though it might be all I take. Show me love. Every day, every day, every day.
Know that earning a GED can increase your lifetime earnings, can be a first step into a university or technical institute. But maybe you don't know how easy preparing for the GED test is anywhere in the Black Hills. Classes are free, a service of the Career Learning Center of the Black Hills and Black Hills Special Services Cooperative. Go online to learn more or call. Earning a GED can change your life.
The aftermath from the recent hurricanes and tropical storms have devastated thousands of communities. You can help the millions of Americans who are affected by these storms. Show your support today. Go to our app or blackhillsfox.com/hurricane relief and make a donation today.
Hi, welcome back to Oyate Today. I am your host, Richie Richards. Our guest once again tonight is Mr. Bill Means and Mr. Phil Two Eagle, who have been working on the 150th commemoration of the signing of the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty. Mr. Two Eagle, obviously an event like this brings together many organizations, many different people to make this possible. And obviously there are some challenges with putting an event like this together, not only budget-wise, but you also have to bring in those major players. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you're currently facing? And we're roughly approximately a month and a half away from the event.
In my position, I'm the executive director of the Sicango Lakota Treaty Council. And we was chartered by the Rosebud Sioux Tribe in 1992. And as charters, through this charter, we work on treaty issues. And I have the support of my tribal council, the tribal administration, the president. And this is to us a once-in-a-lifetime event. And it's very important for everyone to, even if they're descendants, like one of my great-grandfathers is Chief Swiftbear. He's one of the treaty signers. And it's important that I get over there. What I've been telling people is we're following in the footsteps of our chiefs, our grandfathers. And so I submitted a budget to my tribal council. And it's going to take some money, you know, to get our events sponsored and funded. So very soon our tribal council will be approving of our or considering our budget. So And we're also doing some fundraising, so through Facebook.
Sure. And how about you, Mr. Means, as far as the Sioux Nation Council? What role and how are you guys working towards kind of committing to bringing this event together?
Well, in our area of the Sioux Nation Council, we work directly with the 5th Member's Office, which is part of the administration of the Oglala Sioux tribe. And as well, our job is to communicate from the tribe out to the other treaty councils that exist on the reservation. Almost each community, I know we have about 4 treaty councils on the Pine Ridge Reservation, so we try to communicate with them about this event and ask them to come to the meetings as well to help things come together in a unified manner. And so it's been difficult in many ways to bring this unity, but it's building slowly. To the tribe and the treaty councils, sometimes in the past have been adversarial, but now through the medicine, through our education, through working together on various issues of the Black Hills, we've brought people together. And that's the theme, is the unity that we had in 1868 around this treaty, and to recreate that unity and that spirit.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for the work that you're doing, the work that you've done up to this point, and the work that's going to be done at the event and thereafter. So I appreciate everything that you're doing. Mr. Two Eagle, as a part of this process, it's important to understand that there's still fluent Lakota speakers, still fluent language speakers amongst us. And if you could just close us out with a prayer in Lakota, that would be awesome.
Anagopta Nagabla na Yuha Wopila Chicha Pelo, Watcheke Wachimamcha, Takun Aglus Nahechi, Emetic to Zapo. Hoate, Wakantaka, Le, Petoki, Tokea Wonshila Chichila Yonkon, Wana, a Wopre Wankarapi, Yonkon, Oyate Ikpahita, Kiwanjila, Inaji Wonchimna, Hetzelogna, Taku Waste Unkachim Pikelena, Hesapaki Hektake, Unkiki Chipi. Na teata tiwahe lohapi ki lena wichoza ni na wangla ke wastikte tako waste na dagni shichikte ni mitako yasi.
Thank you, Mr. Two Eagle. Mr. Means, thank you for everything you're doing. I'd like to thank Prairie Edge for hosting our show. I'd like to thank our sponsors, our producers, and I'd like to thank you for making Oyate today a part of your night. You've been watching Oyate Today, brought to you by Native Sun News Today.